Welcome, everybody, to the Fanmouth Daily Fantasy Baseball Breakdown for Thursday, June the 5th. I'm Joe Marsh, joined by Dave Del Grande.
Doing great, thanks.
All right, another good day. We got a small slate. We're talking about the night game, so there's only 6 games. However, there are some very good plays tonight. Even at pitcher, I think there's 3 guys you really need to consider in 6 games. That's not bad. I think Michael Wacha's leading the way tonight. You look at quality starts. He's had 10 in 12 starts this season. He's been great on the road, allowing a 209 batting average and averaging 11.61 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a great rate. That's what he's been doing on the road. And he's facing the Royals, who only have hit 10 home runs at home this season. They're 26th in the league in runs scored at home, so that's a good offense to take advantage of. As usual, they don't strike out a lot, so that's going to limit his upside a bit, but I think he can put together a very nice game tonight and anchor your staff. A couple ways you can go with him. You got Willie Peralta, 188 ERA on the road, 8.625 Ks per 9. And he's pitching in a good pitcher's park in Minnesota. The Twins' offense has been ice cold. They're hitting 230 over the last month. And in that time, they're second to only the White Sox in strikeouts. So I think Peralta is a very good way to go. Another way you can go is Jacob deGrom, a guy I wrote about on Saturday. He's still the lowest priced pitcher despite 11 Ks in his last start. Also, he's made 4 starts to start his major league career, and they've all been quality starts. So that's a good way to go. 2.42 ERA, 8.65 strikeouts per 9, and he gets the Cubs, who are last in the league in hitting against right-handers. They're hitting 218, and they're hitting 235 at home. So I think those are all 3 good choices. If you want to go with Wacha and Peralta, it's not going to cost you a ton. If you want to go even cheaper and go with a lot of offense, you can throw deGrom in there. There's not a ton of great options. You may want to load up a bit in the outfield, but we'll get to that. So we'll see kind of how to build your lineup from there. Dave, what are you thinking on the mound?
Well, I agree with the obvious choice tonight, Wacha. I mean, Wacha's got to be in every lineup going tonight. He's such a standout among the pitchers tonight. An elite level pitcher on the road, but like you said, that doesn't seem to bother him. Kansas City is probably I would say at least among the weakest hitting teams going tonight. Wacha is a clear-cut choice. I'm having trouble finding a second pitcher out there tonight. I do not like your boy Peralta at all. I mean, Peralta has not been pitching well, and Minnesota's a little bit better hitting team than they're given credit for. They're at home. I want no part of Peralta in that game. deGrom, now we're talking. Now we're talking when we look at the bottom of the salary chart. You know that's going to excite me. deGrom has everything going for him, I think, tonight. A lot of the stuff you mentioned, except the fact that, Wood is a really good pitcher at home. Wood's got a 0.93 whip in his home games this year. Hasn't had a good season, but has been dominant at home. The Mets are also not a good hitting team. This is a game I expect the Cubs to win because they've got the better pitcher going. And when that's the case, I have trouble going with the opposing pitcher. But that said, I think the options are so limited for a second pitcher tonight, and deGrom's price is so encouraging that I'm probably going to go with him.
Yeah, I think we kind of agree there. The other guy that I was considering a bit was Yordano Ventura, a guy I've liked a lot. You look at his last few starts, weren't very good. Kind of a sign that he may have been pitching with an injury, and then he did miss a start due to injury. I think I'll give him another start, to watch and see how he performs before I, throw him back into my lineup. So I've got my eye on Ventura, but mostly I'll just be watching to see what I think of him going forward.
Well, here's the guy that I would look at is Skaggs tonight. He's a lefty who gets right-handers out. Which is usually a good thing. Houston does not have a lot of lefties who hit lefties well, and Skaggs has pitched very, very well on the road this year. If they had a Trout in their lineup tonight, and I felt more comfortable that the Angels were going to win this game, then I would like Skaggs a little bit more. But with him out of the lineup and Houston playing well, that waters it down for me. So he's a guy I'm going to consider, but I think when push comes to shove, I'm going to probably go with DeGrom.
Okay, what do you think behind the plate?
Well, I gave you Montero last night. That obviously worked out very well. I see no reason to back off him tonight. He's got a very similar matchup. Nicasio's pitching tonight for Colorado. Nicasio's terrible against left-handed hitters. You're going to want to get your Arizona lefties. I talked about it yesterday, getting your Arizona lefties in there. Tonight's another night where it's a good thing. Nicasio gives up high average to lefties, gives up power to lefties. Arizona doesn't, their top hitters, including Goldschmidt, are righties, but they do have some lefties, and Montero bats in the middle of the lineup. I think he's a very, very solid play tonight at catcher.
Yeah, I'm with you on Montero tonight. You mentioned it. Nicasio giving up a 310 batting average to lefties. And then you look at what Montero's done against righties. He's hit all 6 of his home runs this season against right-handed pitching. Again, he'll be in Colorado, so, not a good shot, but, has a chance of hitting a home run. And he's been hitting well, 10 for his last 31. So, I think it's a good call. Obviously had a big night last night. What about first base?
Well, you could, if not for the game at Colorado tonight, I would be looking to load up on Orioles because the weakest pitcher going tonight by far is Lewis of Texas. He's terrible. He's got a 350 batting average against lefties, 325 against righties. I mean, he gets nobody out. Texas is a nice hitter's park. Baltimore comes in. They're a big, powerful offensive team. I think you could go several different directions with Baltimore players here. I mean, they have as good a top of the lineup as any team in the league with Markakis and Cruz and Davis and Jones, Machado. That's a lot of talent there. They're going to do some damage against Lewis tonight. So I think Davis is going to be my play at first base. But I got a real sleeper at first base tonight, and he's going to be someone where you're going to have to check the lineup to see if he's playing. But this guy Campbell of the Mets, big right-handed power-hitting first baseman, very much a part-time player. Mets have a good first baseman that they play almost all the time. But when Campbell gets in there, they only play him pretty much against left-handed pitchers. They face one today, and Campbell is right down at the bottom of the price chart. So if it comes down maybe to your utility spot and you've run out of money, you need a really, really cheap option, and you happen to look up and you see that Campbell's in the Mets lineup tonight, there's a guy to strongly consider.
All right, I like to hear that. Low price sleeper. For me, I'm with you on Davis. 6 home runs against righties this season. Again, you talked about Colby Lewis. I'm with you. Orioles are the #1 team I'm stacking tonight. He's given up a 350 average to lefties. What more do you need? I like Singleton for a low-priced option. Again, he's he's down near the bottom, so I think he's a solid play. The one guy you mentioned, Colorado, the one guy that worries me is Morneau. Although they've been scoring runs, he's 1 for his last 17. So I would be worried about throwing him in the lineup, even though the Rockies may be a good play tonight. Over at second base, one of the standouts for me today, Jose Altuve, a guy I'm always going to throw in against a left-handed pitcher, hitting .424 against lefties. It's not like it's a small sample size either. 28 for 66. Also, you look at it, he's had a hit in 29 of his last 33 games, so he's a high floor guy. He's not going to leave you with a 0 anywhere, So I think he's a very solid play tonight. What do you think?
Well, the splits tell me that LeMahieu is actually a better play tonight. We got Arroyo pitching tonight for Arizona. He's got a 360 batting average against right-handed hitters. That's a righty who's not getting righties out. Colorado does have 2 or 3 power-hitting right-handed bats. LeMahieu for a second baseman actually does have some pop. fits the right-handed batter against the right-handed pitcher who gives up hits to righties. So, and he's at a nice price. My concern about Altuve, and I do like him, and you're right about his stats, but I mentioned before, Skaggs is a rare lefty. He's got a 220 batting average against right-handed hitters, and that you talked about the sample size. That's a big sample size. He is a lefty who gets righties out. So I'm going to look at the numbers here, go with the cheaper guy who I think has a lot of upside. When we just saw 25 runs scored last night at Colorado, and you could argue the pitchers tonight are even weaker. So I'm going to go with LeMahieu there.
Did they finish with 25 runs in that game?
I mean, total runs. What was the score? Like 17-8?
Oh, was it? Okay, cool.
I mean, something.
I think I turned it off when it was. I forget what the score was. I didn't realize it got up to 25.
Oh, I don't quote me on that, but I looked up. I think Arizona scored 4 or 5 runs in the 9th inning after they were way ahead. So it really mushroomed up.
All right.
And they all count.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they haven't exhausted all their bats, right? And then third base, again, another standout play. One of the big standouts of the day is David Wright, a guy gotta love against left-handed pitching, hitting .448, and again, not looking at a small sample size, 55 at bats, facing Wood, who's given up a .294 average with 6 home runs to righties. I think Wright's a guy you need to have in your lineup tonight. What about you?
I agree with that. I think it's you're right about Wood. Wood gets a power even to right-handed hitters, and so I think Wright's a standout play. If you're looking to save a little money, here's Eric Chavez of Arizona is one of these lefties, one of Arizona's lefty hitters against a Colorado righty tonight where you want to play lefties. I'm not recommending over Wright by any means, but if for whatever reason you get down to that spot and you can't afford Wright and you see Chavez is in the lineup tonight, there's a cheap option for you.
Yeah, for me, I'm probably going to put Wright in close to the beginning and then look to save elsewhere. But yeah, like you said, if you need to save money, you can always do that. Moving over to shortstop, do you have a Colorado right-hander you want to throw in here?
This is the no-brainer of the day. Like I mentioned this yesterday, when Colorado is at home, you almost have to put Tulowitzki as the first guy that you put in your lineup, unless you put a pitcher in there. There are very few guys who I can imagine pitching against Colorado where I would say, I don't want to pay that price for Tulowitzki. This certainly isn't one of them. I mentioned Arroyo. 360 batting average against with 5 homers against right-handed hitters. You want right-handers going against them. This is a big-time green light for Tulowitzki. As much as Waka, he needs to be in the lineup tonight.
Yeah. You all right? Yeah, we talked about this with Jeff on Tuesday where, Tulowitzki had been cold on that 9-game road trip, and Jeff said, I don't know if he's just going to jump right back into it because he's back in Colorado. And, yeah, it's like, I guess, a switch, that he has that back at home I'm going to start hitting again. 4 for 9 with a homer and 3 RBIs in the first 2 games of the series. Like you said, Arroyo's given up a 360 average to righties. Tulowitzki's hit 10 home runs off of right-handers this season. Maybe all he needed was a little home cooking, so I think that's a great play. And I haven't talked – oh,
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the funny thing is I think he's still in a little bit of a slump. These 2 games that you mentioned at home, he hasn't been great by any means. He hasn't really busted out. You mentioned the 3 total hits. He did hit a solo homer. We scored 10, 11 points both games. He's gotten to his value both games, but he hasn't had one of these big games that, and it's right around the corner. Tonight could be that night where, he puts up that 20 to 25 point game for you that takes you over the top. So, I'm looking for him to really bust out.
Are you making him your home run pick tonight?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see what you had posted already. And then the other thing I was going to mention was I haven't talked about the Orioles on the infield, but I have them all because I have my top plays are elsewhere, but my number 2 plays are pretty much Orioles. I like Machado at third base. I like Hardy at shortstop. Anywhere today where you can get an Oriole or a Brewer in, I think is not a bad play at all.
I agree with that.
And then outfield. So now we're really going to start talking about Orioles and Brewers. Starting off with my man Nelson Cruz. I gave him the night off from being my home run pick last night, bringing him back tonight. So hopefully he's well rested for that. He did not homer yesterday, but I was talking about it yesterday. He collected 3 hits anyways. I was talking about, he had over the last 14 games, he hit 9 home runs, but he also had 21 hits. So he's still giving you a solid floor. Like I said, didn't hit a home run, but still had 3 hits. So not a guy you have to, be scared of, going 0 for 5 and, leaving you high and dry when you've paid a ton of money for him. He's been crushing lefties and righties, so I'm not worried about it, facing a bad righty in Lewis, who, in addition to giving up a 350 batting average to lefties, has given up a 325 batting average to righties. So that's my home run pick today. I like Markakis as well. Again, he's been hitting well off of righties this year. All of his home runs this season have come against right-handed pitching, so you need a lower-priced option. Markakis is a good one. And then talking about our Brewers here, they're facing Kevin Correa, who has a 7.09 ERA at home, giving up a 3.28 batting average to righties, even though he's a righty. Righties have hit him hard. So as we all know, the Brewers lineup is typically stacked with right-handers, so you don't need to shy away from them, especially the ones that hit righties well. Gomez is one of them. He's hitting 314 against righties and hitting 361 on the road. He's a standout play. And the same goes for your boy Ryan Braun, who's got 7 home runs this season against right-handed pitching. So, like I said, if you want to just go all Brewers and Orioles, for most of your lineup, I think you could do that. I don't think there's, too many bad plays on either of those offenses. What do you think in the outfield?
I agree with you. I agree with all 4 guys you mentioned there. You could certainly play 3 of them in the outfield and 1 of them at utility, talking about Cruz and Markakis and Gomez and Braun. But I could say the same thing about the Colorado game, and the prices are much cheaper. You've got Kadire, big right-handed hitter against, I've talked about Arroyo doesn't get righties out. I think the matchup of Kadire against Arroyo is a very solid matchup. And meanwhile, Arizona's got 2 left-handed hitting outfielders, cheap guys, 1 really cheap guy, who are solid options tonight against Nicasio, and that's Parra and Peralta. And so I could fill my outfield with Rockies and Diamondbacks and feel real good about it and save a ton of money. So the point is not that I'm recommending it, but because you got to have Cruz in your outfield tonight. I have a tough time picking between Gomez and Braun. I don't think either one of them necessarily is really going really well right now. So I think it makes it hard to pick between the 2, but I'm not sure you could go wrong with either one of those guys either. So maybe we're talking about a mixture. Maybe you go with a Cruz and a Braun, and then you come back with a cheap guy like Peralta or Parra, not quite that cheap. And then maybe consider for your utility spot, someone like Kadire or Parra or Markakis. So, but definitely between those 2 games, you could get yourself 2 or 3 full outfielders of players and feel real good about it. I would certainly focus my attention there.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of the guys that I liked but hadn't talked about. Peralta being one of them. I think he's in a great spot. And you mentioned all the Colorado outfielders. I always like Dickerson, and when there's a righty on the hill, assuming that he's in the lineup, I think he's a solid play as well. So a lot of ways you can go in the outfield. Having talked about it, I'll go ahead and jump right into the final word. Makes me think I may need to go with DeGrom as a low option because I think I do like a lot of high-priced bats today. I think probably pair Waka with DeGrom and then build something like make sure I have Chris Davis, make sure I have David Wright in there. I like Altuve in spite of the fact you're not too hot on him. Tulowitzki may be a bit pricey for me. I may want to stock my outfield instead and go with the cheaper option at shortstop. Again, the Orioles are a good choice. I think J.J. Hardy could be in play there, and then go with, try to get Cruz, Gomez, Braun, and then maybe a cheaper outfielder, Markakis, Dickerson, or Peralta are all good choices there. But I think that's how I'm going to build my lineup. I think I may need to save at 1 pitching spot just to make sure I can build myself that solid offense of Brewers and Orioles and Rockies that I like. Final word, Dave.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said, and I'm someone who's day after day after day here telling people to look at the bottom of the pitching salary chart, look for a pitcher Ideally at home in a game that he's going to, have a good chance of winning, facing a weak pitcher, facing a weak lineup. Now, DeGrom does not qualify under all of those categories today, but what he does qualify is cheap and playing against a weak team. And I just don't see a real strong second option out there. So while DeGrom is not my ideal low-price pitcher, he is low-priced, and I'm willing to take roll the dice on him. And then, like you said, that's going to allow you to put an extra one or two real heavyweight hitters in the lineup. My lineup is going to be, based on Waka, Tulowitzki, Wright, and Cruz. I mean, those four guys are definitely going to be in the lineup. Now you throw DeGrom in there, and let's see what's left. I think I'm still going to be able to get two fairly high-priced guys in there. Then I'll look for some low-priced guys. And I mentioned some. I think that Campbell tonight is a really intriguing low-priced guy. Peralta of the Diamondbacks is another guy batting in the middle. Batting in a lineup where that's going to be scoring a lot of runs. I think is another low-priced guy who, like DeGrom, you put a couple of these guys in there, and that just adds another heavyweight or two to your lineup. So. I don't want to force guys like that into the lineup, so I'm looking for good spots, like I talked about with DeGrom, and Peralta at Colorado, where there was just a ton of runs scored last night. I think he gives you a very good possibility of getting to his value. So that's the way I'm going to stack my lineup tonight.
All right, and touching on DeGrom again, he's a guy I liked because of how solid he's been. I'm like I've mentioned before, I like to eliminate outlying performances, which I think his 11 strikeout performance last time out is. I wouldn't count on that again. He's seems to be more of a 4 or 5 strikeout guy, but still I think he can shut down the Cubs. He may be able to, get to 6 or 7 strikeouts because he's facing the Cubs. I'm just saying I certainly wouldn't expect another 11 strikeout performance.
And the good thing about these low-priced pitchers, and we agreed yesterday on Dice K. Now, Dice K did not pitch a good game last night. He scored 3 points, okay, which is terrible for a pitcher. But when you only pay whatever $6,800 or $6,600, whatever it was for him, my goal is to get 1 point for every 1,000 spent. So I was looking for 7 points out of him. I got 3 in a terrible performance. That's just 4 points below what I was hoping for. I can't tell you the number. I mean, look at your hitters last night and tell me how many of them, were 4 points lower than what you were hoping for. Probably 4 or 5 of them. It happens all the time with hitters. So the fact that it happens with a pitcher, I wouldn't be too worried about it. And like I said, he pitched a terrible game. If DeGrom goes out there tonight and pitches even a decent game, like you said, all right, don't strike out 11, but give me 5 strikeouts. Give me 5 innings against a really bad hitting team. All of a sudden you're going to look up and he's going to have scored 11, 12, 13 points, and you're getting double his value, in which case you made a really wise choice.
Again, all his starts have been quality starts. You get extra points for that, and obviously that in itself is a good way to get some points, eat up some innings, and not give up a lot of runs. That wraps us up for today. Dave and I will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter @PlayFanmouth and check out our rankings at blog.fanmouth.com. We'll see you tomorrow.